All right, so social issues again regarding the Gilded Age. So during the Gilded Age, Americans faced new issues regarding industrialization. Yes, whenever you have new things, you have new issues. Like, so we're talking about the internet earlier. So there was a lot of new issues whenever the internet got really big, right? So all of a sudden you started having new ways for people to be scammed. Viruses. You also had things where things might be legal in one state but not in another. So you could have online gambling questions and stuff like that.
My aunt falls into those a lot.
And yeah, I mean that can lead to different problems in its own right.
She's prescribed to this watch company, and it's like they're awful watches, and they send her like 2 watches a month, and it's like $1,000 a month for the prescription. And she'll like once a month she'll get the notification and she'll be like, "What did I buy?" And I'm like, "You're still prescribed to that thing."
Note to self: start a subscription service or something else.
Yeah.
Start to think. What colorful rocks? I can do that. All right. So.
Shungite.
There we go. So, gosh, why am I not rich? All right.
Yeah,
So-
why can't I just sell like rocks?
I need to start selling
This
Shungite
is
rocks.
from Mount Everest, from the very top.
Dr.
I
Disrespect.
gotta be careful because you can't do straight up fraud. But I mean, yeah, back to the internet. I mean, you also had like safety issues for like minors, and of course, go back to scammers like the elderly and stuff. So there's a whole lot of issues going on there, infrastructural things. So same with industry. So now all of a sudden you have people like we talked about earlier. Factories brought jobs to men and women. Of course, remember this is back in the day. So women were typically paid less because they were seen to be, though we know it's not true, less productive. In a lot of industries, we know that on average, women are much more productive. Women have a much better capability for multitasking and also doing things
More
that,
efficiently.
well, the way I put it, women are better. Men have a harder time doing things if they don't like it. Women are better at doing things they don't like. So like if a man doesn't believe in something, he's probably just like, forget this, like whack. So early industrial careers for women could be found in textile industries, such as like making clothing and stuff like that. Some examples: the Lowell Mill girls. So there's a lot of questions that families could have. Is like, hey, why should I send my daughter off to go work at a factory? It sounds kind of dangerous, because in a lot of communities, you wouldn't have your daughter walk by herself down the street without a male escort. So why would you have her go work in a factory? So Lowell, who owned the mill, he opened up a community that was just for girls, and dorms, and they had essentially somebody to make sure that, because these were a lot more teenagers, to make sure that they're also educated and they were protected and stuff like that. So it seemed just kind of like a small community of people who worked. America was full of these little communities where you had similar things happen, where you would have business owners open up a factory and they would try to make like a community around the factory, like with its own store and schools and police service. But the thing is, though, whenever the factory doesn't do well, the communities would fall apart. Some of them even played around with things like socialism and stuff like that. Some of them, however, kind of turned into indentured servants, to where they got in such bad debt to the factory owner, their own boss. They were basically working for free eventually. Children were often sought out by factory managers because they could
You get in debt to your boss.
Huh?
You get in debt to your boss.
Well, it's like that was a bad problem in Mexico for a long time. It was called the peon system, to where you would have I guess right, or as peasants, like migrant workers would work at a hacienda for like one of the big grandes, the guys who own like big ranches or farms, and you're like, hey, you can work on my ranch, and I can't pay you in cash right now, but I can give you credit to my store. And so I'd be like, oh, okay, I really need clothes and stuff, so I'll buy things. The thing is, you only get so much credit. So they'll advance you more credit to buy things. They're like, okay, I only give you $50 a month, but I'll let you have 100 this time, but you have to pay me back and through work. Okay, so you get in debt so much to your boss because he's the only one who has the store, that you have to stay there and work it off forever. So it's like a big problem in like South America and like Mexico. So it's really a return to serfdom, really. I mean, you couldn't move. They made laws where if you were in debt to your boss, you couldn't leave and stuff like that. But in America, yes, there are going to be. In America, if you get into too bad debt, often you just get put in prison until your family pays your way out, which doesn't make sense because if you owe somebody money, you can't make money in jail. So.
Yeah, I've never understood that.
But that's what the American prison system was based on and founded on, was
Well, they
debts.
did that in medieval times. They're like, you're gonna be in jail until you make enough money to get yourself out.
Yeah, but
How
being
am I
in
gonna
debt,
make my money?
being in debt wasn't as common back then. And the reason they did it in medieval times too is because it was related to the old ransom thing. Because people paid ransoms all the time. If the bandits got you, your family had to pay a ransom to get you back. If the Turks got you, pay a ransom. The Vikings got you, pay a ransom. I mean, it's just something that's been around forever. I mean, even Julius Caesar had to be ransomed. I mean, and then
By who?
his family. He's one of the richest, came from the richest families in Rome. He's captured by pirates, and pirates ransomed him. And then what he did, he immediately got a couple of Navy boats, and he caught them, and he killed them all. So, this didn't work out too well. So, yeah, don't say Julius Caesar as a captive. He got his revenge.
They got their money and he got what he wanted.
Yeah, I'm sure he got his money back. But piracy used to be a big problem in the Mediterranean.
It still is.
I would imagine in some spots, yeah. Usually when I think of piracy now, I think of off the east coast of Africa and
It's bad
the
there.
Philippines too. They got the Moros there. Yeah, the Philippines. It's like
Pirate City.
700 islands. About the western part of the country is held by essentially like Muslim separatists who do piracy.
What is their version of piracy?
They kidnap you and then they try to ransom you.
And if you don't get a ransom, they kill you.
Yeah, ransom's what piracy's all about, really. Unless they can get some loot, then they got some loot, but that's where they try to get on cargo ships and stuff. But back to this. So once again, like you said earlier, children could be paid less, and they could do jobs that grown-ups couldn't. And also, it's just a lot of families did this because if they were already super poor,
They have nothing to
And-
lose.
yeah, they had nowhere to put the kids, so like, hey, go do that.
Daycare.
These jobs were often very dangerous, led to death and dismemberment for these children. And the public hated it. The public thought it was disgusting. Huh? Dismemberment is whenever you have one of your limbs removed from your body.
And it may
Yeah.
be your head.
It's the Lego you can't put back. It's just doesn't work.
It's the Lego that got messed up in the factory.
Yeah, you can't unring that bell.
Nope.
Now you can now. Put it on ice. Sometimes they can save it.
The what? Your finger and like your arm and things like that.
Your legs.
I don't know about your legs.
Ooh, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
But definitely not your head. You can't save the head. Sorry.
Nope.
Yes.
The green.
So don't go losing that. Hey, who's this guy? Didn't we read something from him?
Yes.
This
we did.
Booker
He's
T.
that guy,
Washington.
yeah.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, so during this time period, we're going to see, I don't know, I mean, we're going to start seeing as time goes on, as certain parts of the South become more established in Jim Crow laws, we're going to see eventually what's called the Great Migration, where we're going to see a lot of African Americans here who are like sick and tired of how the system is. They hear about factories opening up north, so you're going to have a lot of the African American population leave the South and go up north, which is why you have a lot of African American people living in New York, Chicago, and stuff like that. It's not because they had a bunch of slaves back during the Civil War. It's because eventually a lot of Black people are just going to straight leave this area. They're going to find, however, that it's not quite better up there. All right. So following Reconstruction, the South introduced many discriminatory measures against Black citizens in order to maintain the old status quo. So remember, I told you we had 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. So there's no more slavery, and they made the law, the amendment to make sure that ex-slaves were now citizens, and they had the right to vote, at least if they were a guy. So, but they didn't quite feel the full benefits of citizenship, and like Booker T would have said, they were kind of left hanging. I don't know what to do. So, poll taxes, which is a tax to vote, and grandfather clauses were often used to restrict African American votes and work rights. So poll tax also affected poor whites and Hispanics as well. So if you're and the reason that they had poll taxes is because they knew most Black people were poor. So, if it's the choice between that and food, well, you're probably going to choose food. And grandfather clauses are like this. It's kind of like a reintroduction once again to medieval serfdom, where if you worked on a certain piece of property, you were supposed to stay and work on that piece of property, like a serf. So
They do that in the Bible a lot
Like
too.
sharecropping?
yeah, like sharecropping, but sharecropping where they would also restrict, they would make it illegal for African Americans to move and stuff like that, which it's unconstitutional. But who's going to stop them? Well, somebody. Was going to be a long time from that. It was illegal to be Black and unemployed. They would literally put you in jail and just make you work like that. Stuff like that. So it's pretty tough. Lynching and race riots led to the deaths of many innocent African Americans based on mostly fictitious charges. So I want to compare this to lynching is kind of similar to what happens in police states, right? So if we have time, I'm going to get y'all at least to read excerpts from Alexander Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago. And he outlines in there, and this used to happen in Nazi Germany too.
Isn't that the one that you love?
I love it to death. It's one of the best books ever. I'm actually reading one that's similar to it about Mao's China right now. And it is terrible, terrible. But it's good to know what communists do because they make you eat your kids. Which is not good. So
You don't like it, or was that bad?
I like
I enjoyed.
I like the truth, even if it's super dark.
I
Okay.
enjoyed the book East of Eden, but it was very bad.
All right. So here's the deal. A lot of times when people were lynched, it's because they had either false charges against them or charges that weren't necessarily provable. This is similar to what happens in police states. Often in a police state, you have neighbors spying on neighbors because they're in fear that if they don't tell on somebody, they're going to be in suspicion. So often they'll tell on their neighbor for small things like, I don't like you very much. I would rather have your apartment than my apartment. People would actually do things like have affairs, and then they would snitch on each other's spouses to have them thrown into the gulags, all right?
Bro.
And stuff like that. So it was like really dirty stuff.
Meet you at the gulag.
Lynching was similar. If somebody felt slighted by like somebody who's an African American because they didn't feel like they got enough respect, they would just make an accusation that that person assaulted them or tried to rape them or something like that, and now they're dead. So it's very similar to that, to where you have people lying to have other people murdered. Of course, it's race-based and not ideological-based here. Okay, so that's one of the differences. Now, lynchings was predominantly on African Americans, but lynching was a very reoccurrent Southern thing. So like I might have told you, not this class, but like downtown Tyler used to actually have, had an opera house and had a big oak tree near the courthouse. And that's where they used to lynch people, right? They used to hang people in front of it.
Whoa.
In fact, yeah.
Is
It-
lynching the ripping apart their body?
Lynching is simply when you have a mob take justice in its own hands and kill somebody.
Which courthouse?
Is there a
The
specific
Tyler
way?
courthouse, the one over there, huh?
Is there a specific way they would do it?
Well,
I thought that was when
the
they-
last two here in Tyler, the guys were hung. They were accused of rape, and so the mob got them and hung them. There were a couple of white guys.
How recent was it?
I don't remember.
Accused of
No.
what?
It was no way. It was way before I was born. It was before my grandparents were born.
Accused
Oh.
of
For a
what?
long time. But
Well, the death penalty is still in Texas, right?
it is. But this wasn't done with the courts. This was done where
Oh,
I was like,
that's not good.
he said, she said.
No, that's
So then the
not
whole
good.
neighborhood gets together,
They're like,
grab
yeah,
'em.
right, let's go kill him.
Yeah.
No.
and sometimes
What's the-
yeah.
What's it called when they just like rip off your arms and your legs?
quartering.
Quartering.
Okay, that's what Attila the Hun was totally into.
Attila the Hun. This I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. This is done all throughout the Middle Ages and stuff like that. But like in the Middle Ages, whenever they did executions, they, the what?
Like Indian.
I don't know. But different Native American tribes had different variants things. Kind of like you can't compare the Caddos to the Comanche
Yeah.
because the Caddos were usually pretty peaceful, whereas the Comanches would, like I told you before, they desecrate corpses, hoping that you would look like that forever. But the Comanches would like they were. Other tribes called them Comanche because Comanche meant the enemy. Comanches would basically trap deer and cook them alive. They would like laugh at torture. Like they were like really brutal. So
I'm sure
most
not
tribes
all
weren't like
of them
that.
were that bad.
So, well, the Comanche were. It was their culture. I mean, they were.
You're their culture.
All right, so segregation of minority groups became more common, an overt form of racial control in much of the South. So this is where we come across the difference between cultural racism and institutional racism, right? So like cultural racism is
That's-
just like,
Institutional.
yeah. So like, yeah, cultural racism is just like we got people like hating each other. Institutional is where you have it in the law books. So in the South, they had it in law books. And when we talk about the civil rights movement later on, we'll talk
In the
about
North, it was just cultural.
it was cultural. And in fact, in the North, we're going to find it was actually in many ways more violent. So in the South, they had distinct lines and people usually didn't cross it. Whereas in the North, they didn't have those lines. So sometimes people got hurt.
You look like you.
Hey, what do you think this is?
I'm gonna shoot you dead.
People
Getting their eyes checked. Immigrate.
Yeah, they're checking them for diseases.
I remember, what was that book that we read where the girl had roundworm, ringworm? We read a book where the girl had ringworm and she like couldn't go to the, I think it was like 7th or 8th grade.
Alice in Wonderland.
She couldn't go to,
Stop.
No,
No.
schizophrenia.
I was gonna have schizophrenia.
yes she did.
She was asleep.
No,
Uh-huh,
she was, you know, insane.
No, that whole story is the dream of whoever wrote it.
Logan, that just reminds me of what's her face? Kathy from
Oh my god.
But you are
She's
right.
So creepy.
She was a sociopath. She wasn't like, she was just straight up evil.
Okay. So, but you're right. Yes, this has to do with immigration. So usually, so back to this, many immigrants came into America through ports of entry such as Ellis Island in New York, Angel Island, San Francisco, and Galveston Island. Immigrants were tested for their language, intelligence, physical health, and political ideologies. Political ideologies is going to be one of the most important ones later on, especially when we go into the early 20th century, when you're going to have acts of terrorism committed by political, ideological anarchists, and also fears of revolution from socialist groups.
Oh
So,
my gosh, imagine leaving your wretched country and landing in Galveston, Texas.
I'm sorry.
That's unfortunate.
Back in Galveston.
But you don't have to say that.
Galveston wasn't that bad.
Yeah, this is pre super mega death hurricane Galveston too.
Yay.
So was it the
Super
hurricane
mega
of 1900 where it basically wiped the island off?
But
the map?
also,
Yeah.
Galveston's just a mud puddle.
Yeah, but it's a man-made mud puddle.
Yes.
All right, so if they failed any one of these steps, or if anyone failed, if they failed any one of these tests, they could face detention or deportation. They had to prove that they would not be a burden on society. They didn't have forms of government welfare and things like that. So if somebody came over, if they didn't have support or a job, they were worried that they could like steal or something like that,
Or just
like beggars.
Yeah, just like chilling on the streets.
By proving they had to prove they had family, a sponsor, or a job. So a sponsor could be something like a university, or if they were like a religious person, like they were like a visiting pastor or something like that. A job could be one of those factories we were talking about. And of course, family's family. It's just like sometimes, you know, you would have friends of the family say they were related to people and stuff like that.
But why is it okay to lie about that? It's wrong.
I didn't make a judgment call.
No, I'm just saying.
But I mean, like I have, like, for example, my family. Like I've got on both sides of my family, we can trace ancestors back before the American Revolution. But there's been a lot of mixing up since then. So I've probably got like everything, you know,
Well,
going back from that. So a lot of folks did.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
My family is from Cuba, and when my uncle tried to get to America, he did it very illegally.
Mhm.
And he knew it was wrong, but he was just trying to escape Fidel Castro because bad, evil. And so he literally got on this little boat and rode through a hurricane, and then he made it to the U.S., but he fell asleep, bless you, and his boat got turned around and he went back to Cuba.
Oh, that stinks. Well, I know, like, we still have a policy where we accept people from Cuba as asylum seekers
Mm.
from communism. If
Yeah.
you survive
We
the
don't
threat,
like communism. Because we don't like communism.
No.
well,
Yeah, it's fine. It really is.
You can literally ask my family who's lived through communism
It's garbage.
more than half of their lives. It's bad.
Yeah,
It
it's
doesn't work.
pretty dang bad. Communism never really works at all.
well, it's the antithesis of so much of what we're supposed to be founded on. So, and the whole worldview of communism is very different. Don't worry, if you go to college, you'll probably have a professor make you read all the benefits. It's just-
You must
But
convert
they
to
make you read it in the
communism.
bubbly, yay, everything's free.
Well, I didn't have to do that. I got to disagree. But some people have ego. But if you're going to disagree on something like that, you have to understand. You have to be able to understand where you're coming from, and you have to understand. And you have to do it from a place of charity. You know, you just can't like attack people and like
Yeah.
call them Satan or something like that.
You are listening.
My sister definitely attacks me on my boat.
Is she a communist?
That's all right. That's your
Yeah, she'd
sister.
be crazy.
Well, anyways,
No lie.
most immigrants found themselves crowded in cities because that's where you're dropped off at a city. That's where the jobs are. That's probably where your sponsor, your family, and all that stuff is. Some moved out to the west, but those were usually ones for like where they knew like a community of like-minded people work, right? That's why like a lot of immigrant communities that did move out west would be like everybody had like Polish ancestors or Swedish, you know. So usually it'd be like a chunk.
Sweetland.
Here's one place. And you know, like in Texas, it was kind of different because
Germans.
yeah, you had Germans, you had Czech, stuff like that. But a lot of that happened during the Spanish or the Mexican era.
Mhm.
So
Because that's why we have Schlitterbahn.
Mhm.
What?
Yeah. Because the Germans who lived down there, like, basically made it. It's pretty cool.
Like, give me 2 seconds.
It's okay.
Would you rather not have Schlitterbahn?
I mean, Splash Kingdom is basically.
I think
No, it's not.
No, it really isn't.
which one's the one on I-20?
Splash Kingdom.
Splash Kingdom. I burnt my feet going there once.
Ow.
What?
Splash Kingdom is basically.
It was
just
so
Splash-
hot.
Splash
It was like July that the concrete burnt my feet.
Hi.
I didn't like it.
I don't like
And I went on the slide the wrong way, and I busted my
love
leg,
slides.
and my nose started bleeding.
And make a bad trip.
Six Flags is really fun. We went on a day when there was like nobody there though,
That would be nice.
so we got to ride like everything that we wanted to.
It might be very, very nice now that you got the Ronas. And you might be able to go up there, if you keep the spacing, then the line's very
I
short.
went to Schlitterbahn. They kept the spacing, but it still took a while. But
Oh,
probably not as
that's
long
no
as it
bueno.
could've.
That's not good.
It only took like 30 minutes, and usually it takes like 3 hours.
That's why I don't go to theme parks. I don't like to wait.
Then get the fast pass.
I'm too
Only
cheap.
for $200.
I'm too cheap for that too.
Well,
I'm too cheap, and I'm too impatient.
Fast pass.
that
runs
makes
line.
for a heck of a thing.
Disappointing the day.
If you're gonna be broke, at least be a little bit patient.
That thing's like.
Well, that's like if my family and I go eat out, we go at an odd hour so we can make sure we get seats and not have to wait.
That's
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness.
It's
I'm
the
not
same
that
for going to the
impatient.
movies. Like during the
middle of
summer, summer's the best. Like we'll go see a movie, like before anybody else goes sees a movie, and go on a weekday while those normal people are working. So it's like great. So cool thing about being a teacher.
If you want to watch a movie during the school year before everyone else, have your mom like take you out of school and do it in the middle of the day.
My mom can't take me out of school. All right, next one.
Mr. Whitener's mom shows up. Hi, honey, you want to go see a movie?
My
Yes,
poor mom. She
Mom.
wants to be a school nurse. I don't know why.
Your mom does?
Yeah, she doesn't like being a floor nurse. All right.
No, you see, a lot of people like go into like floor nursing. They do it for a while, and they're like, you know what?
It's tough. It's tough. She's tired of dealing with.
The people is what you have to deal
It's
with.
not all the people. It's just some of the people.
Because some of the people that you have to deal with, especially the ones that are over you, you're just like, some of them are just jerks, and you don't want to have them over you.
You could say that about everywhere. I'm pretty lucky here, though. I don't know. I've only had good bosses here. Hey, so what do you see in the picture here? This has to do with immigration.
Right in
The
the
Golden
middle,
Gate
allowed to
of
begin.
Liberty. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
outside of the Golden Gate of Liberty.
Throughout-
There's communist, nihilist,
No,
socialist.
isn't that supposed to be like Statue of Liberty and the Golden Gate Bridge?
The Golden Gate of Liberty.
Okay, so it's
So
saying how
symbolic.
everybody is welcome except for China.
So this is criticizing it. Yeah. So
Which is interesting
communist.
since we buy everything from them.
So
It's not like that
nihilist,
anymore.
which is nihilism, was kind of like it was a big scary thing back then. But
Wait, what is nihilism?
the nihilism is nihil is Latin for nothing. So it means somebody who it's kind of like somebody who doesn't believe in anything, right? It was a term they used for anarchists.
It's like
basically.
Lee. Lee was one of my favorite characters in that book.
Like people will attribute this to the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, but
Missy Adam.
Nietzsche warned against nihilism. He didn't promote it. And nihilism is basically where you get so cynical of everything, you don't think anything really matters
And
anymore.
so you got around like
Socialist.
yeah.
I'm not sure what
What's the
offended.
difference between socialism and communism?
Well, a socialist will tell you that there's a big difference. A communist will tell you it's the same thing. Because, like, for example, Cuba, USSR, Maoist China, they don't call themselves communists. They call themselves socialists. Communism is supposed to be the end goal where you have global socialism.
No,
So that's
that's literally
it's like
one person ruling the whole world. That doesn't work.
a philosophical communist
sure
would
he
say
died.
no, because a philosophical communist would say it's the ultimate democracy where everybody gets a vote and all this other stuff.
You might be lying.
But
Tell that to
it's not
Khan.
generally how democracy works out. But usually democracy turns into a dictatorship
I don't know.
because people always vote for somebody to be in charge of
I
it.
know. Yeah,
Right.
a lot of.
So yeah, the point of this picture is to show you that immigration has been often regulated based on ideology and country of origin. It's happened a lot. So nativist, which is remember somebody who doesn't want people to come from other countries with different ideas and stuff from their own, or races or countries of origin, supported restrictions on immigration, especially from anywhere outside of Western Europe or the British Isles. And of course, when I say Western Europe, a lot of Americans, they weren't even comfortable with Italians coming over because there was a pretty big negative stereotype over Italians and Irish people and stuff like that. Like pretty much they just
What's a
wanted.
nativist?
There was almost like,
Sorry.
a nativist is somebody who doesn't want outsiders to come into their country because they're afraid they're going to change it or take over it. So it's like the Know Nothings right before the U.S. Civil War. Discrimination was common against Chinese, Japanese, and Catholic immigrants because America was predominantly Protestant, varying Protestants. The thing is, it's like there's pretty big differences between some of the denominations.
There is, yeah.
But a lot of them were from Scotland or Germany or the Netherlands, and of course England.
And they didn't like the Catholics.
No, and a lot of that has to do with British history because they kind of had a big civil war over that stuff.
Yeah, we
That
talked about
monarchy.
that last year.
Yeah, when we were talking about the Glorious Revolution and stuff like that, and of course the fighting before that. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 would prohibit workers from China from coming to the U.S. A lot of people were coming into California from China, and there's eventually going to be laws against Japanese as well. They come in helping out working railroads, mining gold during the gold rush. And they did a lot of menial labor, like washing laundry and stuff like that. But prior to this, you had England come into China, and you had the Opium Wars, where England essentially forced the Emperor of China to allow the British to have unregulated trade restrictions. And the British found out that if you get people addicted to opium, they'll want to buy all your opium because it kind of works that way. And so a lot of Chinese people were addicted to opium and bringing it over into America. People didn't like that very much. People didn't like the fact that they weren't Christian people. A lot of Chinese people would make money and then take it back home. So people thought that they were stealing wealth from the country. There's a lot of things going into it. And of course, some of it was good old-fashioned racism. So this brings up the idea of the melting pot. Immigrants were encouraged to assimilate to American culture and to learn English. Well, the belief was this was harder from people who came from Eastern countries as opposed to like European countries. Public schools were seen as a way to help immigrant children assimilate by teaching English and American history and values. So yeah, like the founders, whenever they talked about what education was supposed to be, it was supposed to be a place where they learned writing, arithmetic, and of course history so they could be better citizens and all that stuff.
Now we learn all sorts of stuff, like how you choose.
Oh, it's true, but even the founders believed that the parents were supposed to teach most of this stuff. Like most things like history, your values, things like that were supposed to come from your parents and your church. Like they believed you had to do those things to be a virtuous person. And then you go to the schoolmaster to learn technical stuff. Whereas, now we have a society that's based on specialization. So teachers are supposed to be specialized to take over a lot of roles that parents
history
used
and things like that.
But yeah, parents who are more active in their children's upbringing, the children come up much better students and generally more successful in life. So, because I don't know, like not everybody's a self-starter on getting their learning on. We'll do one more after this. We'll be done. You know, Logan, I shared all of this on the Google Classroom. You don't have to take pictures of it. Like you can see it slide for slide.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I told you on the day one.
So I don't really be.
Wait, y'all are now in the Google Classroom, right? I can invite y'all.
No, we're not.
I am.
I don't know if I am.
Let me
Well, I can
check.
invite you.
Okay.
It's mostly for the other one because the reason I didn't invite y'all because we have the Canvas and then I was like
You know what? No.
But I didn't put everything that's
Invite
on
us.
the Google Classroom on.
Why didn't you invite
Wait,
us?
no, I don't. Ugh.
Can you
And y'all are
invite us?
supposed to be smart. I'll add y'all after this is over. I'll add Mariah too. So. Make sure she has everything. But well, there's also things like assignments on there that y'all don't have to do, and I didn't want y'all to get confused because there's assignments on Canvas you don't have to do. Because all I need out of you is those 4 tests and
Really, a 4 tests this semester?
4 tests this semester
And 4 tests next semester.
and 4 tests next semester.
That's our third grade.
4 tests. and
That's it.
How many months?
That's it.
So we always gonna have an A in this class.
We always should have an A in this class.
Can.
That's what's dangerous about only having 4 test grades. Because you fail one test and you fail for that whole 9 weeks.
Well, you don't fail for the 9
I'm
weeks.
going to
Say
tell you,
Say you fail with the
the
75.
only folks who
The 9
failed my dual credit courses were people who had attendance issues.
Something I've learned from taking Mr. Whitener for over 2 years now. If you pay attention to
If
him
you even
and like
loosely pay
pay
attention.
attention, if you like kind of study, you pay attention to what he says, and like understand it, you're gonna pass.
What's most
Even if you don't
important
study,
is
you're
paying
just gonna
attention to Mr.
remember
Whitener.
and
If you
we'll
pay attention
be
to
able
Mr.
to
Whitener,
pass.
It's gonna be good.
you're gonna be fine.
Unless you're the people who are like, oh, I didn't read the book. I was playing on my phone during class. I don't really care.
Well, yeah,
I mean, even
my
that-
tests are aligned to what I teach. I don't test you on what I don't teach you because that wouldn't be fair. But part of my test
Almost 100.
is college level, but it's also practice in case you have to take a STAR test.
Got it.
But 40% of it's going to be off of a small handwritten essay or type. No, it's going to be typed because we're going to do it on the computers. So
What I get
Can I use my
sometimes is when
Hmm?
when I try and copy it down in my own words and I try to listen to you talk at the same time.
I talk too much. Yeah, they say that's one thing. They say that whenever you have people trying to write, you're not supposed to talk to them when you're lecturing. And so what a lot of people do to get around that, they don't put anything up for you to write so they can just talk the whole time. Like I said, I put my lecture notes up for you, blah, blah, blah. Huh? Okay, nothing. All right, last one. Hey, look at this. Not everything was like dreary, just people hating each other and children getting like chewed up, stuff like that. Like
Let's
there
talk
was some
about the
nice
White City.
What did they get chewed up in?
The machinery.
I love AJ Thomas. He's just such a great character.
One thing, however, instead of
yes.
we don't have to dwell on the negatives, is you see a growth in the middle class and a growth in leisure and stuff like that. So you get like the growth of things like sports, parks, people going to the beach and stuff like that, people picnicking, going to listen to live music, dances, yeah, it's like you start seeing, instead of just the rich people doing it, more people doing it, because you see more of this middle class, like what we think of as kind of like just what people do these days, I mean, but without electronics. So industry led to the urbanization of America as many workers live near the factories. Cities are crowded, unsanitary, and lack modern infrastructure. We mentioned that before. Diseases such as dysentery were chronic problems due to proximity and lack of cleanliness. Dysentery, you often get that from drinking dirty water. And then you die of dehydration because of diarrhea, which is still one of the biggest killers in the world.
Diarrhea?
Yeah.
Or dehydration?
Diarrhea that leads to dehydration.
So why is that one of the biggest killers in the world?
Because in a lot of third world countries, they
Third
have a
world countries,
real
yeah.
bad problem with clean water. I think malaria is one of the top 3 as well.
Yeah, I
What's
saw a
number
whole
one, you think?
documentary on that.
I think it's dysentery. I think.
This probably isn't anything really
I
expensive,
could.
but I watched a video on this guy. He had a bottle of muddy water.
Yum yum.
I think it was Mud Rover. He put this solution in it, and then he like shook it a little, and then held it there, and all the dust and mud and bacteria all
Guess who
settled into the
produces
bottom.
and funds
And
that
it was just
solution?
completely clean.
Yeah,
You could drink
You know who funds that solution?
Yeah.
Bill Gates. He spent millions of dollars.
He's
on
actually done a lot before he got into the vaccination thing, like helping out kids and people like that, saving lives with clean water and stuff like that. So yeah, and before he got involved with Common Core and all that.
Smart.
But
car.
I mean,
Whose car is it?
is it the black one? The black one is the lunch lady, and the white one is the cleaning ladies.
That's always so weird to me. What do you do with them?
Well, they better watch it because it's no park zone.
Yeah.
They could get a ticket. This summer, yeah, like we're having a meeting and police made Miss Biddle move. She was parked there because they were going to give her a ticket. So
Wait,
they're going to give the
Police made
principal.
Miss Biddle move her car.
Yeah, because it's in the fire zone. I mean, like, what if they're like, well, what if there's a fire? And the law is the law is the law. They have to enforce law even if they don't care.
Yeah,
But
what if there's a fire? There's no way you're going to be able to escape with that car there in the fire
Yeah.
zone.
well, they do make really good filters now. Like you can just like little like you can make like life straws and stuff like that. You can make nasty water really clean.
They're like $30.
They're worth it. Like
Yeah, they
if you
work
need that,
really well.
that is like those just a few ounces
you're in
you're
the
gonna
middle
save
of-
in bacon.
Yeah, if you're in the middle of the
I was
wilderness,
kidding. Yes, I understand. So much water.
They make big ones, like all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah, I've been collecting a lot of camping stuff because, but my kids are too little to take along right now.
My brother's in Boy Scouts, and my dad and my sister climbed Pikes Peak last week.
I need my kids to get bigger so I can do stuff like that.
No, they will not do it with you. You have 2 girls, right?
Huh?
You have 2 girls.
I'm
Got
climbing
2
Mount
girls
You
Sniffles.
can
and a
put them in
girl.
Boy Scouts.
Well, the thing
Boy
is
Scouts is the worst.
we're trying to be careful where we put them in Boy Scouts because we're very scared of some people. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they're not doing joint. They
Mhm.
have specific girl troops and specific boy troops.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
no, I'm
it's-
more worried about the adults than the kids.
No.
I'm not worried about the kids.
Okay, my brother's Boy Scout is really good. It's at the church that's right next to the old mall
Mm-hmm.
and next like to where Arby's is, and
Mhm.
you know, first Christian church.
Remember we went to school at the beginning?
Okay, it's sort of where TGI Fridays used to be.
Peter Griffin.
Uh-huh.
We went to
That
school
church.
there last year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What if? Yeah. Yes. The middle schoolers had classes
Whiteman.
in that
Mr.
ring
Whiteman.
where they
That's
did the Boy
weird.
Scouts.
Anyway, that's where my brother goes, and it's like packed 335, and it's really good. There's
Mr. Whiteman.
some girls in his like scouting, but they're like
I can't like. There's certain things my wife won't. She's too afraid they could have bad leaders. Yeah.
When you go, you sound exactly like Peter Griffin.
I'm trying to think. That's my problem. So maybe there's a correlation. All right. So the crimes and fires were also higher in cities than in rural areas. Duh. So there's more buildings, there's more fires that burn everybody down, and there's crime. The ancient Romans knew this. That's why Jefferson said we don't need to build big cities because they'll just be criminal hubs.
I love
It-
criminal laws.
somewhat true.
Leading to the creation of local fire and police departments, though, so you have like organized ways to try to protect these people. Sanitation was slowly improved. The introduction of modern sewers and city codes. So city codes are local laws. Many immigrants sought the company of others like themselves and established ethnic neighborhoods in their cities. Still happens today. It is a natural human phenomenon where people often want to live near people who they kind of see themselves in. I mean, it's just how it is. That's why I don't have neighbors. So
Because you don't see yourself in
I don't see
anybody else.
myself as anybody.
Or is
Did
it
you like
because you
build
believe
your
that
house
you're
in the middle
nothing?
of nowhere?
Nah, my wife inherited her house, but it's too small. We gotta get a new one. But we're kind of waiting until she starts working again. Which is soon.
How soon?
Boy, we gotta wait till my 2-year-old's old enough for pre-K. Then she's gonna. So she's doing some part-time stuff. She subs every now and again. But she's thinking about teaching again.
My mom homeschooled my 2 sisters and I from the second they were born, and then I was the first daughter to go to school ever. And I remember how stressful it was just my dad working, and he's an accountant, so he was never home.
Mm.
And he was an accountant in Lufkin, and he still is. So like he comes home like twice a week.
Mm.
It's
Well-
just a lot of money.
We're not doing that
Oh, wow.
because our children will chew us up. So,
And then spit you out.
Yeah,
no,
In colorful blocks.
And
no,
then
there'll be nothing left.
we were trouble
You
children.
might be
Be
welcome
like a
to
cow.
speak.
We
I
can't do
was
that.
a trouble
Yeah.
child. I was always in
And
trouble.
then
I was
pass
always
their
with
5
my mama.
seconds.
And plus she was
Yeah. Good.
homeschooling, and was pregnant with my brother. I was the worst child ever.
We've made a decision. We're not gonna homeschool unless
Hold
Don't, I will tell you right now, don't.
school
Because
systems.
I'm so behind in math and history and everything, because my mom didn't pay attention to it. It was all about my older sisters.
Well, I'm sorry. Hey, folks, we're going to end the recording there. Kind of went a little long today, but make sure you read your book.
What do you say? Hold on.
Wow, it says I recorded